whether is it a choice or is it caused by socio-economic marginalization? While we are still waiting for Meki, I will request Hilda Tlow to make some input. Hilda Tlow.
Hello.
Hello, Hilda.
Hello, everyone.
You can continue, Hilda. Hilda.
Okay, igama lami Hilda Wakatlow, founder and director at Impumelelo Yethu Foundation, a survivor of system of prostitution. Mina ngokwami lokukhona ukuthi for mina prostitution is neither a work or a choice. So aside from lokukhona ukuthi ma challenges lakhona empilweni nesimo semali nokuswela imisebenzi nako konke lokufunekayo ukuze mhlambe ukhona ukuthi uba nemali. So egcineni i-prostitution igcina ibe option ye-survival because awunayo lenye i-option lo ongaba nayo.
For your submission, you are saying it is not a choice. It is caused by the socio-economic marginalizations. Yes. If there were other opportunities, economic opportunities, people wouldn't go to sell their bodies in exchange of money. Okay, all right. We are still waiting for Miki Meji. I am struggling in getting her. I don't know if she's back. Miki? Hi, Miki. Let's get to other participants who are in this group. We have had a submission from Hilda Tlow. We can take other dissenting views and other views that agrees with the submissions. Can we take other views? Hilda says, because I can see somebody says we should translate. Hilda says it is not a choice. It's the result of socio-economic marginalization. People were introduced into the broader or mainstream economy. People were not going to go out and sell their bodies in exchange for money. That is the submission that Hilda made. Other people who want to make submissions or counter submissions to what Hilda says, please raise up your hand, then we can take it from there. And I will take Mamokete. Let me unmute you. Just for a minute. I'm still struggling to unmute you. Just give me, okay, I think you're in. You can take, you can.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. Hope you're all well. But before I give my opinion on this, there's a message coming through from Miki, or please unmute her. So maybe let's start with this. Yeah, that's the point I wanted to raise. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Miki and then unmute her.
Oh, good afternoon. Oh, finally, I almost felt marginalized there at some point because I couldn't speak and I was trying. Thank you very much, Mamokete, for being my voice. That's what we call advocacy. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miki Meji.
Okay, Miki Meji, can you continue, please?
My name is Miki Meji. and I am from Cape Town. I'm speaking to everybody from Cape Town. I am the founder of the movement of the survivors of the system of prostitution called Kwanele, and I'm also a member of that movement under my leadership, Hilda Tlo, who has just spoken right now. And I work with an organization called Embrace Dignity, which is a feminist human rights organization that seeks to abolish the system of prostitution by law reform, calling for the enactment of the equality model. But I don't want to get into that since that's not the topic of today. I find the topic of today very interesting. I'll start off by defining choice in one of the dictionaries that I've seen, but there are many definitions, but they all seem to point to one thing. Choice is an act of choosing between two or more possibilities. It is sometimes known as an option or sometimes known as an alternative. Now, going straight into that, there is a wonderful quote by Catherine McKinnon, but I am going to amend it today because it goes beyond what she normally asks. If being prostituted is truly a choice, then one would want to wonder why it is almost always, if not always, a choice made by the most poor, disadvantaged, vulnerable, and marginalized of society. Now, the South African context, if we want to look at that, and I want to look at the issue of choice in two sides, between those who are prostituted and those who prostitute others, because we have a tendency when we have these conversations, we want to talk about the women or those who are prostituted within the system of prostitution. So the South African context, those who are prostituted are predominantly poor Black women from disadvantaged backgrounds. And we also have amongst those a large number of undocumented South African nationals, as well as non-nationals. So while those who actually purchase sex are men, predominantly middle class, white, and privileged. Now, this brings us to the next question. If we say prostitution to begin with is a choice, then whose choice are we saying it is? Is it the choice of the prostituted to be prostituted? Or is it the choice of those who purchase sex to actually purchase sex? Now, there is one thing that we know, that I know as a survivor of the system of prostitution, is that prostituted persons, predominantly women, because I'm a woman, I'll be rightfully speaking for women, we don't just wake up one day and choose to be prostituted. Prostitution is chosen for us by the injustices of our colonial past, apartheid, and persistent inequalities. If I need to go back to colonial past and the injustices of apartheid, those are that which renders us today as poor and vulnerable as Black people, especially as women. Now, when we look at why men mainly purchase sex, it is because of sexual entitlement. Now, we need to also understand that the system of prostitution is one parasitic system that feeds off capitalism, misogyny, and patriarchy. Now, we cannot live in a society, especially in the context of South Africa, where we've declared that we have a crisis of gender-based violence. I would want to take it further and say men's violence against women and femicide. On a daily basis, we read, we know, and we hear of women dying at the hands of men. Men who purchase sex have higher chances of either beating or raping a woman. And those women who die at the hands of men die because it was violent to begin with, and the violence is inevitable. So in a society like South Africa, one would also want to wonder, when we as women generally, in our general population, in our own houses, with the men that we know, we talk about our fathers, our husbands, our colleagues, our pastors, our brothers, our cousins, our uncles, we are already feeling unsafe in the confines of our own homes, in the confines of our offices, for those of us who work, in the confines of our church walls, anywhere where you see a man. If you are a woman, you are driving at the traffic lights, you see a group of men approaching, you are not sure whether they are coming for you. Why would one woman want to just stand in the middle of the road and expose themselves to various men which will take her to isolated places like bushes, like in their own spaces where they could do anything. I would want to submit, my submission is that this being prostituted is not a choice, but prostituting others is definitely a choice made by men. And because they can afford to do so, they use their power and their control to exploit those who are less fortunate and disadvantaged for their own sexual gratification. And now the last question that I would also want to bring into this, if we are arguing that this is a choice, is it a matter of that this choice is being determined by vulnerability, disadvantage, necessity, being underprivileged? Does it determine the terms of this choice that women are said to have made? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mickey. We can now allow Mamokete to come in. Mamokete, please come in. While you come in, Mamokete.
I think I had a different understanding of the topic as a whole. For me, it was about the prostituter. So Michael brought in another perspective, that is the people that actually go into pursuit with sex workers. So with me, I was analyzing it from the view of the person that takes the decision to go and sell their body. With that instance, I agree that it may be due to the problems that they might have at home, economic, social, and the like. But also, Nietzsche has also brought out a topic that really I think that we need to discuss in length, which is the people that go into it. I mean, I don't think sex workers would be there if there was no need. There wasn't any need for them. So the people that initiate going to sex workers is a topic that we should also be having. Thank you.
We are losing you there, Mamokete. You are saying there was going to be no sex work if there was no need. We missed it. Can you repeat so that colleagues can engage with you?
Okay. How I see it is that, okay, let me put another example. If people don't go buy bread, then there's no need for a bakery to bake bread. I mean it in that sense.
Okay. So the buyers themselves, so there is a demand. That's your point is that there is a demand for this. That's the reason why then they become a seller, because there is a demand. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Mamokete, for your submission. I can see someone who says, I concur with the fact that prostitution is a socio-economic issue. In the sex trade, there's no time to check for viable relationship. It is men that purchase sex that have a choice, whether to go for petite, fit, or curvy. So it is definitely not a choice to be sold, bought, and exploited. It is a dire, desperate need. What is the views of others on this topic? I've said in the beginning, people are most welcome to bring in different views. Those who are saying it's a choice are most welcome, and they cannot be marginalized for saying it's a choice. Those who are saying it's a choice, please come in. Those who are saying they still agree that it's not a choice, it is because of socio-economic marginalization. Please raise up your hands so that I can identify you. Okay, I'm going to take Nkosana Mguni. And then I'll follow with Aviwe. Nkosana Mguni, you're on the platform.
Thank you for this opportunity. I hope people hear me, Sediko.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Yes. I have probably two opinions on this issue. One is that it is neither a choice or a state of economic marginalization, but it's a profession that is unregulated. Because if you look at it from different communities, sex work is at all levels. You find it at the premier level of the society. You also find it at a lower level of the society. So as a way of people aspiring to get to some level of satisfaction in terms of general needs, it is seen as one profession that you only need to, there are no regulations currently that will stop you or will underqualify you or disqualify you or qualify you. You do that yourself. That's one opinion. The other opinion that I have is that because of its nature, it tends to kind of go against cultural values and norms. Hence, this question: is it a question of economic marginalization? For me, I think it's because it does affect our norms and cultures, and therefore we have opinions in terms of what each distinct culture would think about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nkosana. Nkosana says it is a profession that is unregulated. It happens at the premier level of society and the local level of society. And because others, particularly the buyers, want to address the general needs, then there's a market for that. But the key submission from Nkosana is that it's a profession that is unregulated. We'll take Aviwe and followed by Maseke Mabelane.
Good evening, colleagues. So the question is sex work a choice or a result of socio-economic marginalization, right? So sex work is indeed a choice. Stemming from the Bill of Rights in South Africa's constitution, everyone engaging in sex work is in fact exercising their right to choice. When making a choice and reaching a decision, one considers there's individual circumstances which are mostly influenced by predominantly historic activities. These conscious choices yield conscious decisions. A typical example is one choosing to follow a certain profession. The same applies to choosing and deciding to become a sex worker. So for me, sex work is a choice. And oh, by the way, my name is Aviwe Mbuye. I am the Sisonke Eastern Cape Provisional Coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Aviwe. Aviwe says it is a choice. People are exercising their right to choice as enshrined in the Constitution. Just like any other profession, people make choices. So they make their choices, people make choices to become sex workers. Let's take Maseke Mabelane. Let's take Maseke Mabelane. Maseke? Maseke Mabelane?
Good afternoon. I would like to make my contribution.
Thank you so much.
My contribution is, this is not an either or situation. I'm aware of people that have a day work and they also are working as sex workers. I think it's a question of, we come from different backgrounds. Some people are doing sex work because they are desperate to do so. I had an encounter with sex workers who would want to get land and try and plow and make a different living. So I do not think, until we understand the circumstances of different people, that we can put this matter as an either or kind of situation. Some are disparate. It's all they think is possible. Probably working on their minds might bring a different situation, but others, it's a profession. So I think it is both. One, a choice. Two, a matter of socio-economic status. Thanks.
Thank you, Mabelane. Maseke Mabelane. Her submission is that it's either a choice nor a socio-economic development. It depends on the backgrounds. Others make it as a choice. Others are desperate to become sex workers. We'll take Blessings. The hand is up from Blessings. Colleagues, feel free to raise up your hand. And if you feel like you don't want to switch on your camera, you can just make your submission without your camera.
Thank you very much for organizing this. I am very, very happy to be here. I am an advocate against human trafficking, and I have also worked closely with Miki Meji. So my point here is, sex work, honestly speaking, is not a choice, because most of the sex workers that I've been close to them, I've interviewed them, not a single one of them actually confidently told me that they are enjoying what they're doing. In most cases, they actually complain about servicing, as they call it, 15 or over 15 men in a day. It cannot be a choice. It could be a circumstances. Even if you choose it, it's the circumstances that throw them into it. Because most sex workers, they will tell you, we would like to leave the job if we can get a better job. Because some men, they are very dirty, they will come and sleep with you. Some of them are sick. Like one of them said, when she finished sleeping with someone, fortunately, he gave her a choice. If you want to use condom, I will pay you double portion. And if you don't want to use condom, if you don't want to use condom, I will pay you double the price. And if you want to use condom, I will give you half the price. And immediately her conscience tell her something is wrong. And she said, please, let's use the condom. And she said, after sleeping with him, when she saw the condom, the content that was in his spermatozoa was scary, was bloody and everything. How can that be a choice when you know that your life can be at a risk? There's a lot of femicide going on as well. Some of them are getting killed. So I don't see it as a choice. Even if it's a choice, it's a circumstances that
also arguing that in
such
fact
a desperate choice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. But some will argue that, Blessing, some will argue that, in fact, just like any other work, people, if they had choice, they'll leave their work and stop doing whatever work they're doing currently. Just like any other work, there's no one who enjoys her work. That's other people are arguing like that, to say, just like any other work of being sorry to give an example, using a security guard or whatever, a cleaner, if they had other opportunities, they'll leave. So it is not surprising that even sex workers could say, but if I had other opportunities, then I'll leave this one. So that's the argument from others. I saw the hand of Unathi Ndiki. Let's allow Unathi Ndiki to come in.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sediko, and thank you for hosting this platform. It's about time we engage further and robustly on the matter. I'm of the view that it's not a profession of choice. It's circumstances that forces people to be there. It's true, we do have people that are in various professions that are not happy. Some find themselves in those professions because they made wrong choices in life, like maybe being a teacher, I'm a former teacher, by the way, that's why I'm making that example, or being a security guard. It's maybe some choices that were not in order were made before. But with prostitution is the socio-economic situations that forces people in general, women, because women are in the majority in the profession, that finds themselves there. I'm from Dignity Foundation. I'm the chairperson of Dignity Foundation. We interact a lot, sorry, with, let me use the word prostitutes, because also the word sex work, I'm not that comfortable with it, because if I keep on saying sex work, it's like I'm affirming it to be a profession of choice. Because as we grow, we always say, I want to be a pilot, I want to be an engineer, I want to be this. I've never met a person growing up that would say, when I grow up, I want to be in the field of prostitution. So it's events that happen in life that eventually drive a person to be in that situation. So what we need to do as a country, now that we do see it as a challenge.
We've lost, can you repeat, and do little better? We lost you there. I think it's because of a network problem. Can you repeat?
Where did you lose me?
The last time when you said you've never met a person who says, I want to be a sex worker. Then
thank you. I'm saying, as we watch our kids growing up at all levels of the society, we've never had a person saying, in future, when I grow up, I want to be in the prostitution industry. So as events unfold in life, they end up taking that decision of saying, I want to be this, because there are issues of poverty at home. And at times also, I always say, even the corruption that is happening, it does force other people to end up doing professions that they never intended to do, because there is lack of opportunities in certain areas. Because at times you would meet a university graduate, I've met a few, by the way, here in Nelspruit, that would say, I found myself in that profession because I do apply for jobs, I have this particular profession, I'm not getting any assistance, and I studied on a loan, and I come from this particular background. So they are forced by circumstances to be in these situations. What we need to do as a country, we should also move towards coming up with an exit strategy for those that really say, I want to leave the profession, but I don't know what else to do. I'm happy in the group here, I've seen Dr. Nthabiseng Moloko from Stellenbosch University. He's also the deputy chair of a particular organization. Every time when we interact with her, especially on the issues of the economy, listening to her as she unpacks economic issues, whether it's a one-on-one or in the meetings where we sit together, or you listen to her on TV when she speaks about issues of the economy, you can see that as a country, we have the skill, we have the resource, we have capable individuals. Should we come up with an exit strategy that will assist those that really want to exit? People like Dr. Nthabiseng Moloko are the cream that we have as a country that can take us out there. Thank you, facilitator, for the opportunity. I'm done.
An impression. So Lloyd says it's a choice. The industry also offers flexible working conditions. That's what he says. He says it offers flexible working conditions. Let's take in Nosizwe Rotles. Let me meet you, Nosizwe Rotles, sorry for that.
Good afternoon, and thank you for unmuting me. I was waiting.
Thank you so much.
But thank you so much for having this debate. I work with Embrace Dignity. Okay, am I still on?
Yes, you're still on, Mama Nosiwe.
I was just being encouraged to show myself. So there I am with my COVID hair. This is me here. No, yes. So I was just saying thank you very much for organizing this debate. I wanted to agree with the Commissioner for Gender Equality and would actually request that the Commission for Gender Equality look into this matter, because I've heard some people calling it a profession. And I would like us to think very carefully when we use the word profession. What do we actually mean that this is a profession? For us at Embrace Dignity, we see it as oppression. And I'll explain why I say we see it as oppression. It is oppression because the majority are not making a choice. As Mickey has said, it is mostly those without choices that find themselves ending up in this oppressive system. You know, in 2010, when we started Embrace Dignity, we went out to interview women, prostituted women, and more than 90%, that is 9 out of 10, said they were not, this was not a choice. You can't choose to go into a system which threatens your life every day. You don't know if you will come home alive. And then I want to go to the person who said something about our constitution allows free choice. Free choice is limited. You know, for example, you might choose that you want to smoke in a car. There is a law in this country that says you can't smoke in your car. Even if it's your own car, you can't smoke when there's a child in the car. So there has to be a limit to the choice that people make. You can't just simply say the Constitution allows a free choice. So having said that, I do agree with those that say if there was not a demand, there would not be people who find themselves being prostituted. And also the fact that it is the men that are making a choice. I think that's a very important point. And I just want us to be aware of the fact that many women have died in the process of trying to put food on the table. I'm very happy that this debate is taking place. I do not think there's anybody, if they were given another choice, who would choose to put their lives in danger. So thank you very much for having this debate.
Thank you so much. She's putting an argument to say even the choices are limited. And if you look at our constitution in section 36, it talks about the limitation of rights and also the limitations of choices. So our constitution also have got limitations. I will take in, again, Mamokete, her hand is up, and maybe she'll bring another perspective. We'll bring in Mamokete.
I have now forgotten the name, the person that I was to regarding what she said. She said that, okay, the first person said that this constitution thing happens at different levels. The people that are at disadvantaged that would be pushed into prostitution. There's people at higher places, at premium places like Fenton and Taboo and those other elite clubs that still go into prostitution. So to just merely say that it is just a result of socio-economic marginalization wouldn't do justice to what's the problem with it, because it's not only people that are disadvantaged that go into prostitution. And I think if we read from that point as well, he might be able to get a more understanding of what it is that actually motivates a person to take the decision to engage in prostitution. I think for me, the way I understand it is that if you are in an environment that gives you no other choice but to go into prostitution, that also is a contributing factor. So if I say that I have no bread and I have no other way of providing for myself, another person would say, why didn't you go next door and offer to fix their yard instead of stealing your body? So I think it is a choice. At the end of the day, everybody makes choices. We're not saying it's a good or a bad choice, but initially it's a choice. Thank you.
Okay. The discussion is not whether it's a good or bad choice, but at the end is a choice. That's what Mamokete is saying. Someone is saying it is not only the poor women who are, or the poor who are engaged into sex work, even the rich are doing it. So that's another argument. Thank you so much, Mamokete. We are about to wrap our discussion. We'll take few inputs and comments before we bring in the person who will give the closing remarks. We'll take few hands before we give somebody who's going to do closing remarks. There are very different views. Some still say it's a choice, but others are arguing that even the choices are limited in terms of our constitution. The argument also says, why, if it's a choice, why is only the poor who are making these choices? But others are saying it's not only the poor who are engaged in sex work or what people call prostitution. Those are different views on this matter. We will take other hands to make submissions before we close our discussion for today. Any hands? Oh, Nonhlanhla, okay, Nonhlanhla, you are in. And then I'll take Unathi. Nonhlanhla, you are in.
Sanibonani. Ligama lami nginonhlanhla. Ninjani igama lami nginonhlanhla Mabelane. Ngi-project manager ye-Dignity Foundation. Ngimvile Aviwe akhuluma athi i-sex work it's a choice. Sex work it's not a choice. Because sometimes you have to sacrifice for bantu bathandako. Uthengisa umtimba wakho just because ufuna abantwana bakho balale every day. I spend like every day empilweni yami sitting with the girls. Ngibalalela kutitori tabo because nami I've been there. I know a situation ukuthi injani. You are forced ukuthi ulale nomuntu just to put food on the table. So angiboni kuyi-choice leyo. Usacrifice ukuthi okay, bhuti wakho ufile, mokokho ufile, funa ufide abantwana bobhuti wakho or ufide abantwana bakho. So I don't think it's a choice. Ukwenda cause it's a force, funa ukwende lokho. After that, uva buhlungu ukuthi I did this. Ayikuthi uyafuna just because you are forced to. So give me, it's not a choice.
Okay, Nonhlanhla will bring in Philile Ntuli. The hand is up, Philile.
Thank you, Chair. But I just want to make a note that my hand was up after Comrade Jacqui, Comrade Unathi, and others, their hands, and I would like us to follow a fair process and recognize people according to when they raise their hands. I'd like to speak, but I would like to allow those with their hands up before me to speak. Thank you.
Philile? Okay, Unathi? Unathi?
Molweni Betuna, thank you, Comrade Philile, for that intervention. It's quite important because sometimes we do feel marginalized in situations like this. So thank you so much, sister. Thank you, Chair, for this conversation. I looked at the framing of the question and I got really worried about where we are taking our country. We seem not to be able to shift our thought system. Sometimes it's easy for us to sit and be judgmental of other people's choices or decisions. I hear people keep talking about sex work not being a choice or sex work being a socio-economic. I'm an artist. Where I work sometimes daily is not a place where I want to be. I am there because of the system that I'm living under. And these two systems are actually problematic. The patriarchy system and also the capitalist system. So I want us to look at this situation on those lenses, because the more we try and judge people and the more we judge what people are not choosing or choosing, we are going to sit with a society that is harming itself, a society that keeps hurting itself. We cannot continue to criminalize people that either choose to do sex work or find themselves there. We need to quickly get to a point where we decriminalize sex work so that people that are finding themselves in that space are able to feel free, able to feel safe. The reason why they are unsafe right now is because we keep criminalizing the work that they do, even though we are also not happy in the workplaces that we're in. We are not allowing them to find their own safety and comfort in where they are. So that would be my intervention. Let's decriminalize sex work. It's unfair for us to keep criminalizing sex work.
Thank you so much, Unathi. Colleagues, let me make this submission. There is no unfair process of identifying hands. We are over 66 in this group. And looking at my laptop, I need to scroll to see some hands. So sometimes I might be missing a hand. To demonize those who are selling their bodies or those who wishes to go and sell their body, is to arouse interest in people, and so that we can have this kind of discussion, is to spark discussions. And it was chosen on the basis of also the right to have opinions. So there was no any motive in choosing the topic. Thank you so much. I will go to Philile. Philile?
Thank you, Comrade Chair. I would like, I know that you said we are heading towards closure, but I think in respect of this incredibly important discussion, you should consider extending. I understand that many of us have issues of data, but those of us who can stay, they must. Those of us who can share their data, they must. This is a very important conversation. You can also allow everybody with their hands up feel they are represented and that they are not being marginalized. Because when we talk about this topic, about questions of marginalization, it's not just out there, it's also here. I'm just Comrade Chair so that you can consider it. The point that I wanted to make is that the one is that I'm noting, Chair, with respect that you are the commissioner at the CGE.
Another spot.
And as long as it's a question of bodies, we must also make a note that you occupy a male body, which by virtue of being a male body in a discussion about sex says something to the conversation, and we must talk about what that says to us in the discussion about sex work and which bodies often participate in what is being called the question of sex work. The other point that I wanted to make was I just want to raise I'm noticing that we are not speaking to the question of spirituality and sex. Whether we say it's a profession or not, sex work, there is a fundamental spiritual relationship that goes with sex. Like you.
Philile, can you find the correct spot? Because sometimes we're losing you.
Okay, sorry, Chad. Sometimes, I don't know if you can hear me now. I'm in the rural, so my network can get bad. In isiZulu, sithi inkonzo yocansi. And the reason we say inkonzo is because of the connotation of spirituality that goes with sex.
Yep.
So as we talk about sex, as we talk about work, as we talk about prostitution, and as we talk about professionalization of the industry, we must also then talk primarily about the spirituality of the act of sex. And then to directly answer the question, I hope you can still hear me. To directly answer the question, thank you, Chair. To directly answer then the question of is sex work a choice or not? I think we can't ask that question if we can't answer the question of other professions such as domestic work, for example, sweeping a street. I can be passionate about sweeping a street, but if I can go and have a PhD in law or accounting and still choose to sweep the street, then that conversation can happen. But for as long as I can't do that, then I don't think that conversation can happen, because the issue of choice is an economic choice. Until all economy is in the hands of the people, we can't have a discussion about whether it's a choice or not that we are making. The real question is, when is the land returning to the people, so that, oh, mama, no, baba, can go and relax in their lands, and then we can have the discussion about whether we want to have sex with other people for whatever reason or not in our land. Thank you.
Thank you, Philile. Philile has got a concern, or she's raising a submission that a male body chairing this discussion is also problematic. And that might be creating an impression that all sex workers or prostitutes are females. But I know there are sex workers that are males and selling their bodies. But we can take other hands. Jacqui The Poet. Unmute Jacqui.
Hi, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Thank you. I just want to register that my hand has been up for a long time. Hey, it's not fair, this selective choosing.
Apologies. I've raised that we are about 64 in this group, and I'm using a laptop. Then I had to scroll and choose hands, and there are so many hands. There's no way that I'm going to choose all the 64 people in the group.
Okay. Okay. And another thing is two things I'm going to start with. The first one is calling sex workers prostitutes. If you are not a sex worker, you should not speak on behalf of sex workers. If you're not a homosexual, if you're not a woman, you should not speak on behalf of those people. If you're not a Black person, you can't speak on behalf of Black people. So I think we can understand that. It's like we're having this meeting being chaired by a white person talking about Black liberation. So already that's a problem. And then even the topic itself, I'm going to look for it. Is sex work a choice or result of socio-economic marginalization? Our very lives, whatever we do, whether it's sex work or something else, is a result of socio-political economic marginalization. And that's why I think Comrade Philile said that as long as we are living under these conditions where we don't even have the land that we walk on, this can be a question. And why is it geared towards sex work that we keep insisting on calling prostitutes, even when they themselves say that, please, you are hurting us. We don't care, because we have made a judgment on sex workers. And we keep insisting on calling people prostitute. It does not hurt anybody, whatever you feel or don't feel, to call a person what they want to be called. So already there's a lot of violence in the space. The question itself is a problem, and you being a chair is a massive problem. How you became a commissioner in the Commission for Gender Equality alone is also a problem, because I'm sure there's very many capable women who can hear us, who can maybe even see our hands, whatever laptops they are using. So right now, I'm not a sex worker, but I'm a big ally of sex workers. And there are sex workers here who are my comrades. And you calling them prostitutes is violent, and you're continuing even when they say no, which is a problem. And exactly why we are here, we are in a country that suffers from GBV and femicide, because you don't hear when people say no, please don't. So please correct that. And maybe if you really have some ethics in you, before you even come up with topics, first day of Women's Month, you can excuse yourself from being a commissioner in your position. Men and white people are privileged enough, and you being here today has shown us exactly why it is that Black women must be the ones in those positions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I respect your views. This session is organized by Progressive Socio-Economic Investment and not any other institution. Thank you so much. We are about to close the session. We will call in, let me check here. Noma Sonto sent us up. Noma Sonto? Noma Sonto? Okay, Noma Sonto cannot speak. We'll call in Rabo Mohale. Rabo Mohale?
Yes, Chair. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you very much, Chair, for this opportunity. And it's a very important discussion for us to have. And I think we should consistently engage in the discussion around the decriminalization of sex work in particular. I really just want us to reflect on how we understand labor as a commodity, because it's not just sex work alone. I mean, even being a pilot is labor, it's selling of labor. And we must be able to get to a point where we understand that people have got a right to exercise agency over their bodies, whether they choose to be pilots, whether they choose to be sex workers. We need to be able to understand that women, men alike, who are sex workers have got every right to exercise agency over their lives. Now, what is it that we must be able to do? The first point of departure is that we must be able to get to a point where we treat sex work on the same level as any other form of work. And listen to sex workers when they speak. It is very important, right? A pilot cannot sit and speak for domestic workers. You don't understand their plight. You don't understand what it is that they choose to do with their lives. Allow people who are in the profession to speak for themselves. Give them a voice to voice it out. You know, it's not for us to sit on a high moral standing and say it's an issue of dignity. According to who? Because we all have different standards of dignity. Who says that being a sex worker is not a work of that can be viewed as dignified? We should not get to a point where we condescend on people and we condescend on people's choices. Look, I think the question itself to say, is it a choice or is it a matter of material conditions, can go either way. But we must not stifle those who say it is a choice. I mean, for example, yes.
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you there. I think there's the problem of connection. Can you just repeat? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no. What I was saying was that we need to be able to get to a point where we treat sex work on the same level as any other type of work and remove morality. And because maybe this is where the problem is, that we want to bring morals that do not apply to everyone to the question of sex work. Why must we relegate sex work to a different level and say it must be criminalized? I really want to make a silly example so that people can be able to understand where I'm going. So right now in COVID-19, there is a demand of PPEs. What do? We provide PPEs, right? Because there is a need for PPEs. Why are we not questioning why we are providing PPEs? Why is it that when we must discuss the question that there is a need for sex work, there are people who are buyers, there are those who are sellers of sex work? Why is it that when we are discussing this form of labor, we all want to bring in a lot of things that do not exist in that conversation. We must give both men and women who want to exercise their right to sell whatever labor, that particular right, allow them to exercise agency over their bodies, decriminalize sex work so that they may be able to find recourse, because we're discussing issues of gender-based violence. We're not sex workers ourselves, but we are still facing gender-based violence. So you can't relegate the question of gender-based violence just to sex work. If you are able to decriminalize it, then women who are in the sex work profession are able to find recourse. They're able to go to police stations and open cases. Now they can't. You know, whether it is a question of rape, whether it is a question of human trafficking, sex workers in the country do not have recourse because of how we have positioned sex work in the country. It is labor, it is a commodity. There is going to be a buyer, there is going to be a seller. The same way that others fly the South African Airways, those that choose to sell a different form of labor must be treated with the same respect. They must be treated with the same dignity. And this is exactly where I wanted to be, to say we must be able to get to a point where we listen to what people are saying. If a person says that they want to sell sex, we must support them, and we must be able to ensure that they are protected, ensure that condoms are readily available, you know, ensure that there is actually education around sex work and how it is that they can be able to protect themselves. The same way that you do with some of us who are marketers in the workplace, so that we're not exploited. We're exploited also, it's not that it's also not a choice, or it's a choice for us to be marketers. You know, I think there's a point that was raised that when people grow up, we've never had people saying, when I grow up, I want to be a sex worker. It's because we are limited to the material conditions that are there in society, that we are told that you can either be a pilot, so we must choose. So we're forced to choose. It's either you are a pilot, it's either you are this, it's either, and sex work is not there. But if it was there, then we would have been able to exercise the right to actually choose sex work. But it is not there at this current moment, you know. So I think we need to get to a point where we fight relentlessly for the decriminalization of sex work, and we afford sex workers the right to have agency over their own lives. We all have different views about it, but at the center of the discussion is the person who is selling sex work, who stands up and says, I am doing this because I want to. And our views cannot supersede their views, because we feel perhaps, you know, I don't know how we would feel that, no, maybe it's not their choice, or it's not. If a person says, this is what I've chosen for my life, we must respect that, and we must be able to support them in the path that they would have chosen. That is what I would have wanted to say. Thank you very much, and I really think that perhaps we must have more and more of these discussions, and listen to what young women and men alike who are in the sex work industry are saying, so that we're able to shape a country that accommodates everyone and accommodates everyone's right to exercise agency over their own bodies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karabo. In your closing remark, you said our personal views should not supersede the views of others. People have got choices. If others choose to sell their bodies and others choose to buy, it remains their choices. When we started this discussion, we said the society in general has diverse views about sex work or sexual activity in exchange of money. Some say it's a choice, some say it's caused by socio-economic conditions. Society that is not having conversation is not a healthy society. And people need to be allowed to have a discussion on each and every topic that they choose to discuss on. Our society was built on the principles of engagement and having diverse of views, but we must respect people's choices. That's what most of the speakers said. Those who are saying it's not a choice, they've got a right to submit that dissenting view. Those who are saying it's a choice, they also have got a right to submit those dissenting views. As Progressive Socio-Economic Investment Institute, will continue having these kind of discussions on various topics. It is not only a topic about sex work. We have discussed about various topics. And the next topic to come, in 2 weeks to come, it will be about water as a human right. water provision as a human right. Thank you so much. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you so much.